Hello and welcome to round 6 of the Driftmasters European Championship from Mondello Park. After James Deane's qualification, meaning Jack Shanahan could not make up the points, it was down to just 2 drivers who would still be able to win the championship. Going to be a nerve-wracking couple of days action with James Deane looking to make it back-to-back championships. But will his countryman Duane McKeever be able to stop him? After an incredible season's action taking in 5 countries, we head to Ireland. With the battle for the championship wide open, let's take a look at how it stacks up going into today. James Deane sits atop the standings with 328 points. He's closely followed by McKeever on 303. We'll have the permutations of who can win and how a little later in the show. Jack Shanahan's in third on 262. Fourth is Martin Richards, followed by Adam Zalewski, with Benedictus Cierba in 6th. Duane McKeever and Conor Shanahan round out the top 8. That's the standings. Let's see what the drivers are looking forward to from this new Mondello track layout.
First time I've ever driven this track. It's good, it's a new challenge for everybody. For good tandem on this track, you really need everyone to be on point, and especially if the conditions are going to be like what they are now. It's definitely more difficult, but yeah, we'll see how it looks.
The track is fun, it flows really well. The roundabout is a little bit of a stop up, but it works in, it's twin battles in the rain, super close.
At first corner it's kind of sketchy, especially now in the rain and a little bit patchy. And yeah, now the rain is coming again, so.
This corner is not round, but it gets the wall in one point that it's a little bit narrow into the side. And I was like, I'm trying to drive there, let's say, safely.
And once you have the car set up for the first wall, you have to start worrying about the second wall, because that's the one that's going to do the damage. So once you get that dialed in, then basically the rest of the track, it's a nice flowing track. It runs how it wants to run, so yeah, loving the track.
Challenging track overall, but you know, it's top level in Europe. It's not supposed to be easy for anyone, and I think it's going to be a crazy fight this afternoon.
Okay, that's what the drivers think. Things could get a little sketchy, but now it's time to drill down into what the judges will be looking for with Dave Egan.
Let's have a look at the track they will be negotiating today, and it is not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. Drivers will accelerate from the start line full throttle up to 4th gear, weight transfer along this incredible first wall run into outer zone 1. This is about extending the drift as far late as you can without going into outer zone 2, which is the most dangerous part of the track. That wall has claimed a lot of victims in practice. Now it's a transition mid-track to try and balance the throttle of the car and take on this inside clip here, which is a little tricky to get to when the conditions are tough like this. Inside zone 3 will be all important to extend the arc, and then big deceleration as you come into outside zone 4, which is at the roundabout. Then just gotta play with that throttle in the wet, not gonna let the car stall up too much so you can get the speed and the grip to move out into outside zone 5. This is right at the edge of the circuit. We've seen drivers drop some wheels there in practice. We don't want to see that now in qualifying. And then it's another inside zone 6, right on the edge of the curb, trying to just touch that curb and leave your transition as late as possible here, right to the white line, so you can get out to this last wall run, which is outside zone 7. Another very risky part of the track.
All set then. Let's get into the top 32. Getting us underway, rookie Lee Scott went up against Norbert Zametz. The Hungarian opposite drifted in run 1, leaving too much to make up in run 2. And the consistency of the Irishman put him through to the top 16. Michael Rijkaard and Duane McKeever put on a great show for the Irish fans, the Norwegian proving to be a tough customer, as usual. The Czech struggled with his line over both runs, putting the sledgehammer through. Another wildcard put through from the Irish Drift Championship, Alan Hines, went up against James Deane. The championship leader was on rails in both runs, showing great technique and due care on the damp track. And he saw himself safely into the top 16. Experience was on the side of Krzysztof Romanowski against fellow Pole Adam Zalewski, but the 2017 champion took advantage with a super fast early entry on the first run, making his rival back off. But overall, Zalewski was too good and was through to the next round. A consistent Joe Hutonji went through against the Irish wildcard Ryan Caldwell. The Irishman was brave on his lead run, but lost a lot of ground with mistakes at outer zone 2. The German drift brother boxed clever and went into the top 16. An in-form Marco Zaccarel went through against Max Heydrich, with both drivers showing incredible angles on this tough track. The Czech driver went through in his BMW after Heydrich scored an incomplete on his second run. As the rain came down, Matt Carter went up against Axel Francois, with a lack of traction causing issues for the drivers on both runs. A stall from the Frenchman, however, gave him an incomplete on run 1, and the Englishman went through. An incredible one more time saw championship contender Jack Shanahan against rising star Arnaus Vasquez. Both drivers were wheel to wheel through both runs. Contact and proximity was constant on a track with no grip. But home favourite Shanahan went into the 16 with less errors throughout. Championship contender Duane McKeever had a hard battle with Christian Erlandsen, with them making contact in run 1 and McKeever spinning out. He was allowed time to fix the car, however Erlandsen's GT86 was wounded and the Irishman went through on a one more time, keeping the fight going for the title. Here's the rest of the top 32 action. With a lack of scoring drivers from qualification, Conor Shanahan went through on a bye. Kevin Quinn went through eventually after messy runs against Sebastian Fontin. Enver Haskasap crashed out spectacularly, putting Martin Richards through on a one more time. Eli Hutonji was another who went through on a bye. Wildcard Paul McCarthy caused a shock as he put out Benedictus Churba. And finally, Andreas Vasiliauskas went through against Caitlin Kjortin. So here's an update on how the race for the DMEC Championship stands. If James Deane gets into the top 4, McKeever needs to finish first. If Deane gets into the top 8, McKeever needs to be at least second. Okay, let's take a look at how the top 16 pans out. James Deane takes on Kevin Quinn in an all-Irish fight. A tough battle between Tor Arne Kavir and Adam Zalewski also catches the eye. Look out for the Drift Brothers battles, who are both seemingly on form. And in the other all-Irish battle, Duane McKeever takes on Jack Shanahan in a battle that could decide the driftmasters title. Let's get into the action. A spectacular wheel-to-wheel battle between Irishman Conor Shanahan and Lee Scott on their first run ended in disappointment for Shanahan as his car shut down on run 2. The experienced wildcard was through. The rain really started to set in as James Deane took on Kevin Quinn. With the car's aquaplaning, Quinn lost ground and stalled on run 1. With the earlier car problems behind him, the reigning champion cruised through to potentially set up the championship win. It was Norway versus Poland, with Tor Arne Kavir and Adam Zalewski battling each other in the wet. The Norwegian went through just after the judges ruled that the Pole had slowed on run 2 and caused contact. Joe Hutonji and Martin Richards had great proximity, tagging each other on run 1. On run 2, a misjudgment from Richards saw him make full contact with the drift brother, and Joe was into the Great 8. Marco Zaccarel washed out on run 1, scoring an incomplete against Eli Hutonji. And despite putting in a great lead run, he failed to pull back the deficit on run 2. The other drift brother was through.
The visibility is really difficult, so last turn I couldn't see anything. I was just seeing his front wheel and I was just counting on that he's on the right line, so it was really difficult.
The championship was up for grabs with Duane McKeever against Jack Shanahan. The two Irishmen left it all out there with super skilled runs in the wet. Shanahan's chase run was incredible, putting McKeever under pressure. In run 2, he had no answer to the older Shanahan, and McKeever was out, essentially handing the title to James Deane.
It's the sketchiest thing I've ever done in my life. Like for the first clip to the second one, you're completely aquaplaning and you just don't have a clue what you're doing.
In the rest of the top 16, Britain's Matt Carter went through against Paul McCarthy after the Irishman shut down on run 1. Steve Baggioni couldn't carry his form from Germany through, going into the wall against Andreas Vasiliauskas. Okay, that's the top 32 and 16 done. Join us to see who wins the final event of the year in part 2. Welcome back to Ireland, a true hotbed of drifting. Here's Becky Evans with some background and stats from the Emerald Isles drift scene.
Did you know that the Irish are the most successful drift nation on the planet? They have won 5 UK, 7 European and 2 US championships. James Deane currently holds the Guinness World Record for the longest tandem drift. He completed 28.52 kilometres alongside Ahmed Daham in 2014. Conor Shanahan is the youngest driver ever to win a European drift event. He was only 15 when he won Poitou last year in 2018. Since its inception 17 years ago, an international driver has never won an event on Irish soil. This includes drivers from every major drift championship in the world. However, this weekend with a new track, the playing field has been levelled. They may not be the favourites here anymore.
Okay, so into the top 8 we go, and the battles look like this. It's a formality now for James Deane, with both his rivals either out or unable to match him in the overall championship. Can he win the event and bring the title home in style? Both Drift brothers are into the top 8 for the first time this season, and Jack Shanahan will look to make up for his title disappointment against Andreas Vasiliauskas. Right, so that's how they line up. Here's your commentators Dave Egan and Ian Waddington to take you through the top 8 as the conditions worsen.
As the rain lashes down in Mondello Park, 2 Irishmen sit on the line here in the top 8. Lee Scott goes in as an underdog against the best driver in the world, James Deane.
It just comes down to driver skill right now as James Deane fires in with an early initiation. Oh, and Deane's in the wall!
Deane's in the wall!
In the wall!
Could you believe it? And if you wanted an example of how tough it is out there today, that just showed it. James Deane, the most experienced driver on the grid. Well, even though he may have crashed into the wall, we've done the math. Taking home the 2019 Driftmasters European Championship, your winner, James Deane.
As we see James Deane's car getting recovered off the circuit.
Kevin O'Connell is changing the track to make it safer for the drivers, and they're all in. They're saying they're finishing this one way or the other.
This is a brand new layout.
One more time between Kvyat and Hutunji.
Look at Kvyat! Onto the back bumper he goes, he gives him some room to manoeuvre.
And look at this, the grip and Joe Hutunji's car in the wet, and now Kvyat starts to bring it back in. He goes onto him, contact again as they touch doors, and Kvyat pushing the German around the last corner. They're putting on a show for the fans in this condition, and that is incredible stuff. Hutunji goes through into the top 4.
Eli Hutunji to take on Matt Carter, and the only man from the UK still representing. Well, he's going to have to make it work right now if he wants to advance through to the final 4. Nice fast transition from Carter, and Eli Hutunji matches that proximity that Carter had in the first half of the battle as they come down into the roundabout. Carter on that very wide line, almost dropping wheels off the edge of the track, gets the car swung around perfectly. Hutunji goes wheel to wheel as they transition out into outer zone 5.
It's going to be Eli Hutunji. Eli Hutunji goes through to the final 4. Jack Shanahan against Andreas Vasiliauskas. 2 guys looking unstoppable today. Here we go as they come through the gears into that first corner. Jack Shanahan throws in. Vasiliauskas almost makes contact with Shanahan on initiation, but now he's right there on the back corner of Jack Shanahan. Look at the proximity as Vasiliauskas now transitions back. Shanahan on big angle here. Vasiliauskas going very wide though and dropping off the track. Vasiliauskas puts 3 wheels off the track. And it looks like Vasiliauskas may have thrown that one away.
Jack Shanahan gets the win on the grass. Drifting is not what we want to see this weekend.
That was a mind-blowing top 8. Let's get you straight into the top 4.
We are back. 4 warriors remaining on the track. 2 of them Irish, 2 of them German, 2 of them brothers. Honestly, if I wrote the script for this day and I showed it to you, you'd say, this will never happen. Unbelievable stuff. What happens next?
You can see both cars battered and bruised and ready to do action. I tell you what, there'll be a man sitting on the line that's absolutely buzzing right now, and that'll be Joe Hutunji. They come off the line through the chicane, the concentration in his eyes as he stares down and slams it into gear as Joe Hutunji flicks that in. But look at Lee Scott. Oh, he loses loads of ground, and he big straighten. A big straighten there from Lee Scott as he then reinitiates to jump back onto the back bumper at Nissan 206, and a wobble again from Lee Scott.
Lee Scott now has to start making a move as they come into the roundabout. Joe Hutunji slows that car down. You can hear that V8 burble, and Scott now starts to go up onto the front, hits the front of Hutunji's car, and they stay in it, bumper to bumper. Scott hits the back of Hutunji's car, and he's pushing Hutunji through the corner, pushing him all the way around the track. What's even happening right now?
Look at this from Lee Scott. Oh, look at this. He almost made contact on the transition and then tries to jump back up onto the side again for one more hit at the German as they come over the finish line. I think Hutunji is going to come at this just as hard as he did with Kavir, and look at this as he's door on door, and he's not even going to give Scott the room to manoeuvre as he fires in early. Joe Hutunji initiates before Lee Scott, starts to push Lee Scott around the circuit.
Oh, contact! Wow. Contact! Did Hutunji send Scott round? That's the question. Did Joe Hutunji push too much? There was contact. The marshal's saying there was contact between the two.
He was sideways before Lee Scott had even thought about putting that car sideways. And look at this. He was 2 wheels on the inside of the circuit, pushing Lee Scott around that part of the track. And oh, I don't know, Dave. I don't even know. I don't even know at this point.
It's Lee Scott going to the final. Lee Scott goes to the final, and the grandstand erupts as Joe Hutunji just pushed that little bit too far. And now, this is it, 17 years of history. All lies in another Hutunji brother against Jack Shanahan. And to be fair, these have been the 2 most consistent drivers and fastest drivers on the track all weekend. If Shanahan wins this, the Irish are safe with their 17-year streak. But I would not like to bet against Eli Hutunji right now and the way he's driving. They're off the line. It's for a spot in the final.
It is for a spot in the final. Look at Jack Shanahan on the side, that BMW 30. Oh, almost contacted. He nearly pushes Joe Eli Hutunji into initiation. And Jack Shanahan on the door of that BMW as he throws angle at it now, and a quick, snappy transition from Shanahan finds himself absolutely dialed up onto the door of Eli Hutunji right now as they come down into the roundabout.
Look at Shanahan. He's tagged the back end of Hutunji's car. They stay in it in the roundabout. Shanahan loses ground out of the roundabout. The V8 in Eli Hutunji's car able to get out of that roundabout much, much quicker. Shanahan's losing ground. Shanahan's in trouble here. He needs to make a dive, and Eli Hutunji is pulling away. The Irish not looking strong on this one. Shanahan makes one last dive onto the door across the line, and Shanahan stays in the fight. Eli Hutunji does not put a foot wrong.
Fighting for 3rd and 4th place as they slam through the gears. You can see Hutunji looking across as he fires down up onto the side. Oh, and a big wobble from Hutunji, a big wobble from Hutunji as he puts that car almost into a rotation, and Shanahan stands on the throttle and the grandstand erupts. Hutunji gets back into it and looks for the back end of that GT86. They get into the roundabout, and Hutunji now tags onto the back end, but now Shanahan, shallow, very, very shallow, as Hutunji almost overtakes him. They make contact.
Oh, contact again as 3 hits in the roundabout as Eli Hutunji comes back at Shanahan here. He's right up onto the back. He's going to make one big dive. You can be sure of this. He's going to transition late and leave it a triangle, but Shanahan pulls away a little bit towards the end. Look at this dive from Hutunji right onto the quarter panel. These boys are putting on a show in the worst conditions I've ever seen at a drift event. Heroes one and all. Here we go. Results are in, and Jack Shanahan's going to the final. Jack Shanahan goes to the final. It must be the look of the Irish.
Let's have a look at what one of the brothers looks like the stronger contender.
Eli Hutunji's been more consistent. However, Joe Hutunji's been more aggressive.
Yes. Thumbs up, waving to each other, geeing each other on. They're slamming through the gears off the start line. It will be Eli Hutunji to lead. Oh, and they're almost making contact before they've even initiated. As Joe Hutunji starts to stick it to the side of his brother. Oh, they fire in. Oh, Joe Hutunji puts on miles too much angle. Eli starts to pull away with it as they fire through. Big angle transition from Joe Hutunji as he hits the side of his brother's car in the middle of the circuit.
Contact twice, and we haven't even got to the roundabout yet as they now throw it in. Eli Hutunji comes in. Joe Hutunji on a big snappy transition, and he fires towards Eli's rear quarter as they come out. Almost contact again. They're holding absolutely nothing back here. Very similar power plants, very similar grip levels, and look at Joe Tunji coming for it on the last transitioning, but Ellie gets the jump.
Oh, wow. They come through the gears, and now the mind game reverses as they both fire down, coming in even faster than they did before. But big separation opens up as Eli Hutunji's car washes. Can he use that to dial on the angle to jump back onto the side of his brother's car? And he's going to try to. But Joe Hutunji's looking like the faster one now.
Joe Hutunji got all the advantage right now. He's clawing himself back into this battle. Any mistakes he made on the first run, it's coming. Ellie's got to make the move here, and Joe Hutunji gets the jump out of it. And Joe Hutunji looking like the stronger driver. And now Ellie makes a big dive as they come through the last couple of sections, and Eli Hutunji right up at contact between the two cars as they come back in front of the grandstand. Incredible showing from the Red Bull Drift brothers here in Mondello Park. It's Eli Hutunji getting the win and going to third step on the podium. And look at this, absolute delight in the rain in Mondello. They stayed smiling, they stayed strong, and they stayed competing. And it's worked for them. Third and fourth step on the podium.
When I go up against Joe, it's just full on, and we had such a good time there.
We're ready to go for the final. Jack Shanahan versus Lee Scott. Lee Scott, he's never been in this position before, whereas Shanahan reigns supreme today. We're off the line for the last battle of the 2019 Driftmasters European Championship, and look at Shanahan all over Lee Scott. Whoa! What an initiation from Shanahan. How did he get away with that?
I don't even know, but he's staying in it, David. He's back up onto the side of that BMW as he transitions into the middle of the circuit. Big angle thrown out, and Shanahan dives back up onto the door of Lee Scott's BMW. They come firing down into the roundabout.
Shanahan dives in onto Lee Scott. Look at this. Shanahan stops starting a little bit short in the roundabout to try and stay with Lee Scott. Lee Scott's got the jump. He comes out fast out of the roundabout. Shanahan's going to try and reel him in here. And Lee Scott on a perfect lead run here as he comes through the course. Shanahan trying to make that last dive, and he does. Can he get up onto the quarter panel? You bet your bottom dollar he can as they come across. What a finale. Here we go, it's the last run of the championship, last run of the day, and Scott right in on Shanahan. Look at Lee Scott!
Lee Scott not messing around, he knows he needs to stick it to Shanahan right now as they come firing down through the middle of the circuit. As Scott, late transition as he uses the pace to stick it back up onto the door of Jack Shanahan. They come firing down, and Shanahan keeping his cool, but Lee Scott still on the back bumper as they come into the roundabout.
Lee Scott's right there, he's got to stay with him on the way out of the roundabout here. He's caught himself a little bit short here, Lee Scott. He's on the wrong part of the track, but avoids Shanahan there, stays in it. How does Lee Scott make that work? He's back on Shanahan's door. Lee Scott is on Shanahan's door, losing a little bit of ground here as they come around. It's so close. Scott loses a little bit of pace, but what about that? Incredible.
Lee Scott jumps in with Jack Shanahan, doing some celebrity donuts for the crowd. What an event it's been. Weather conditions causing absolute chaos for all of these guys, including the track staff.
Thank you, Ian. What an incredible day here at Mondello. We've seen it all. I'm exhausted. I'm sure everyone else is exhausted. It was the most unpredictable day of drifting in the history of drifting, I think. But we got to give away some trophies. And I can announce that taking third position on the podium is Eli Hutunji! An incredible performance in incredible conditions. And that brings us to the big decision of the weekend, the final. Yes! Taking first position on the podium is Jack Shanahan!
It was my first Driftmasters win as well. It means the world. Unbelievable.
I was about to say, it's your first Driftmasters win, and to end the season on such a high with everything that happened yesterday. The team was frenetic, you were frenetic, everyone was trying to get your car back on track, and look where you find yourself, in the rain, in the podium.
Yeah, no, thanks to the guys for getting the car here today, and oh my God, what a buzz. Oh, Jesus.
What a brilliant result. Despite losing out on the championship, Jack Shanahan takes home the win from the last round of the Driftmasters 2019. But the winner of the overall Driftmasters title was, of course, James Deane.
James Deane wins the championship.
Let's hear from the back-to-back champion.
Not the way you wanted to end your event, but however, it is the way you wanted to end your year. It looks like you're the one that's going to be going home with the championship.
I want to say a huge thanks to all the Irish people standing out here today in this crazy weather. It's hard for us in the cars, not of you guys watching, so thanks for the support, and yeah, there we are.
There you have it, James Deane, the 2019 champion. Maybe not the way he would have wanted to win it, but these conditions levelled the playing field, making it a formality for Deane. What a great season it's been. Starting way back in April, we've seen thrills, spills and every kind of weather, entertaining fans all over Europe. Make sure you join us again next year and we'll be back with even more Driftmasters European Championship action. I'm Ed Lee, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.